Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am so thrilled that you are continuing to join us to celebrate National Intern Day. You are certainly in for a treat because we have Senator Tim Scott here today. He's going to be sharing his experiences as both a congressman and a senator. We're also going to be discussing what inspired his political career, his experiences with Boy State, and highlighting the future of work. If you are not already familiar with Tim Scott, you must not be following us on Instagram because we love sharing what he's up to. He gives such cool background into the inner workings of Congress. But let me get you read up. Tim Scott hails from the great state of South Carolina, and we all know he's very proud of it. He is one of just 3 African Americans in the U.S. Senate, and we know that's not enough, and we're working to fix that. He is also the first to serve in both chambers of Congress. Senator Scott joined the Senate back in 2013 and has been a national leader on efforts to bring opportunity to every American family. It's certainly a value we both share. Senator Scott is also currently a co-chair of College to Congress and has provided invaluable support to our students as they realize their dreams in public service. He's been seen at our summer soiree, actually one of the most popular events we've had, thanks to Senator Scott. He's even housed our own interns, so certainly practices what he preaches. In his official capacity in the Senate, he wears many different hats. He sits on the Senate Finance Committee, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, or in DC, you know we love acronyms, the HELP Committee. He also is working on Banking, Housing, Urban Affairs Committee, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, as well as the Senate Special Committee on Aging. Whew, that is a mouthful. Senator Scott, welcome to National Intern Day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you for your powerful, positive leadership. There's no question about it. The future is bright because of leaders like yourself and the leaders that you're raising up. I'm excited about what's going to happen in this country's future because you are doing such a great job of identifying and then putting fantastic leaders in a position to succeed. That's good for our country. And frankly, as a guy who will be on retirement when they're all working really hard still, I'm thanking God for the next crop of leaders that are coming our way.
Oh, that's very kind of you. And you know, we don't do it alone. We're so lucky to get to partner with you and Senator Hassan, as well as our other champions.
Yes.
We know you have had such a busy day. I know votes have been crazy. Thank you for squeezing us in. Thank you. I wanted to start off this conversation with some words of wisdom. You know, every time I hear you speak, I'm always writing down a ton of notes and bringing those nuggets back to our students. And I know you and I both really value faith and family. I know it's played a tremendous role in your life. I've read some really cool stories about your grandpa and how he's been so inspirational. My mom is that person for me.
Awesome.
She always taught me, you know, to keep moving forward, to keep persevering with the pandemic, with internships being canceled, with, you know, everything going on. I'm curious, what is your message to college students and recent grads right now?
You know, it's interesting that there's so much volatility in the world today that it's easy to get sidetracked or to become depressed or to feel that this uncertainty somehow is going to negatively affect your future. And frankly, I believe the exact opposite is going to be the case. Because of the pandemic and the challenges that we face today, we are accelerating the pace towards technology. And most of the folks who are in the College to Congress, they are computer savvy, they're technologically savvy. So that means that the world is getting closer to you than ever before. So carpe diem, seize this day, and your best years, your brightest days are without any question in front of you. And frankly, I speak to a lot of college graduations over the last few years, and one of the pieces of advice I give to everyone, but more importantly, right now in the middle of a pandemic, that failure is never fatal if you don't quit. And so it's one piece of advice I hope you hold on to, you embrace it, study it within your own life. And I'm not sure about Audrey. She looks like she's never failed at anything. But for my life, I got to tell you, I've had a lot of failure, but most of my failures, even when they're my fault, leads to a better day, a better opportunity, and even more success. But more importantly, to significant outcomes that positively impact the people that I'm trying to influence.
I love that. And see, I always knew you were going to have a good nugget, and we learned so much from failure. And
Yeah.
I think that's really the difference in, people feeling depressed or more optimistic is how are you internalizing this? And what is that self-talk that you're, perpetuating in your mind? So thank you
Yes.
so much for sharing that. Definitely one of those things I would write on a sticky note, put it on my mirror. I wanted to dig in a little bit into your background. So I know we both grew up with single moms who they worked really hard. And while we may have been low on cash, we were always rich in faith. Looking at your career and just how much you've accomplished, I'm curious to hear how your background has played a role into how you serve now and the perspective that you bring to the Senate.
Well, I'm a big believer that somehow God takes your mess, makes you into a messenger so that you share it with the world. And for me, my upbringing is really a part of my mess that's become a major part of my message. And growing up in poverty, single parent household, for me, it wasn't just a poverty, it was really a sense of hopelessness that was so pervasive in my world. And as a hopeless kid, all things are not possible, but one thing is absolutely going to happen. You're going to fail a lot. And so from 7 to 14, I failed a lot. And my freshman year in high school, I failed out of high school because I had no reason at all to believe that the future was going to be different. Good news is my mother never failed. She never gave up. She continued to pray for me. And then I met a mentor after summer school, my sophomore year. And the two of them, and interestingly to today, a black woman, powerful black woman, and a white guy, powerful white guy, that came together for me. It's one of the reasons why I know our future is very bright when it comes to race relations as well. But that combination sealed the deal for me. I had to succeed because so many people were paying the price for my future success. They were paying it forward. And so that has been my experience, that actually my past has become the foundation of why I fight so hard to make sure that others who feel like I did, hopeless, they know the future will get better. Because once I started believing that the best was yet to come, it actually did. I think we can call our future into existence by how we frame our words and then how we respond with corresponding activity to what we say will be that future.
Wow, that is truly such a powerful message. And as I'm, listening to you talk about this, it just reminds me how important it is to be aware of who we surround ourselves with. There are people in your life who will bring you down, and there are people like your mentors who are going to positively pressure you to
Yes.
succeed and to perform.
Yes.
So it's really nice to hear, how
Audrey,
your mentors helped you.
and you know this saying, and I do too, birds of a feather
Flock
flock
together.
together. Well, when
Mm-hmm.
I was flunking out of high school, we were all failing in the same direction.
Yeah.
When I surrounded myself with a new set of friends, with a new vision, those same birds were still flocking together. I joined a different flock. And sometimes, and let me say this, and I don't want to belong or belabor the conversation, but this is really important from my perspective.
Right.
Sometimes the best thing you can do for your future success is evaluate who you're with. If you take a snapshot of your 3 or 4 closest friends and kind of fuse them together, wherever they're going, you are too. And if you don't like the outcome where they're heading, you should not like where you're heading either. So tear it up, start all over. It is better to be by yourself than with a group of people going in the wrong direction. I'll say it this way, that as a high school flunk out after my freshman year, there wasn't a lot of positive prospects. Thank God I had a couple of positive friends and those 2 adults in my life that saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And Audrey, what I'm trying to say is find people who celebrate you, period, and help build your own team. Not an echo chamber of yes people, but an echo chamber that makes you better because they're critical yet positive about who you can become.
Right. It's that realistic optimism right?
Yeah.
You need people to tell you how it is, but to also show you where to go.
Yes.
Because sometimes if you're surrounded by that negativity and the naysay, it's usually just that. They're not also
Yeah.
pointing you on how to get out of that. And I think there are periods in our life where, just like you said, we have to reevaluate who are we surrounding ourselves with? What are we putting in? What are we reading? What are we consuming? Because that's what's going to come right back out. And right after college is a great time to do that. I mean, I've even done that recently in my life. I think it's just something you do every year, like your New Year's resolutions,
100%.
recheck where you're at.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
it leads me into my next question. You know my story. We talked about it last summer, of why I started College to Congress. Because,
Yes.
like you, I wanted to be in public service. I, used Google and technology to the best of my abilities, because I didn't have family connections, and I got that unpaid offer to come up to DC to intern. Of course, I had to take out student loans to afford the flight and the housing and the meals. And Lord knows you got to look the part in DC. So there's an
Yes.
entire wardrobe that's needed for it.
Yes.
But I also failed a lot. I mean, I really did. And I had to learn lessons the hard way. They were often embarrassing lessons, and things that I try to share with our students, even our community and the people I mentor. Take it from me, and don't repeat this. I think you've already given us some good nuggets. I'm curious for some practical advice about those seeking public service, seeking to work in and around politics. What are some lessons that they could learn from you instead of maybe repeating some mistakes?
I will say this, Audrey, and when life is over, I'm sure that you will be in the Hall of Fame of life. And here's what we need to realize, and I say this sincerely without any hyperbole. The truth is that if you fail 70% of the time, that means that you're aiming really high. A 300 batting average in the major leagues of baseball gets you into the Hall of Fame. No one's asking you to be perfect. We're asking you to maximize your potential, which means finding out your limitations. The only way to find out your limitations in a constructive, positive way is to fail on that way. I have failed in every major conquest I've ever achieved. When I was in business, the first time I tried to become an all-state franchise owner, they told me that you were just not cut out to be an owner. You're a good manager, but you can never have the vision to lead. That hurt. I went to work for the next several months and retook that aptitude test, and they said, my gosh, so much has changed. You're going to be fantastic at leading. When I failed in high school, I failed in business. After my first election, I ran for the state office, the state senate office, lost. I wanted to be the state treasurer, and it was just a vote among the state house members and the state senators. My vote was 170 to 0, except for I got the 0. So literally, I have learned tough lessons. But here's what I learned. If you're not failing at all, you're shooting too low. And if you're failing all the time, that means that you're not learning the lessons from failure. So you need to fail forward. You need to try really hard and succeed, and then try even harder and fail, and then get up, brush yourself off, and go at it again. Here's what I've learned, that it is easier to study other people's failures than to live them yourself. Some of us are hard-headed, and I had to learn the lessons myself. And so whether you learn it by reading and studying other people's lives, or if you have to learn it yourself, learn the lesson the first time. Because I believe sometimes life will not let you, there's no social promotion in life. You've got to pass the test. So either study hard and get it from someone else's life, or if you're like me and have to figure it out yourself, just do it one time. You don't have to do it twice. You certainly don't have to do it 3 times. I did. You don't. So learn from me.
I love that. And I think it's so true. And it goes back to what you were saying about the power of mentorship. When you
Yes.
do when you do fail big that first time, go to your advisors, go to the people closest to you, and honestly present it and try to take your emotions out of it and see how you can improve and do it better.
It
Because you
worked.
don't want to be on either end of, the extremes, like you were saying.
Absolutely. It worked for me, and Audrey, I'm sure that it's worked for you as well. But you have such a bright audience. The people that listen to
Yeah.
this people who are overcome major obstacles. God bless you. Keep
Mhm.
going. One of the reasons why I pay my interns is because people like you, Audrey, who had to go take a loan out, there aren't enough people who have the courage and the confidence that believe so much in themselves that they set themselves up for success off the cuff. I wouldn't have done that. I didn't have the courage. But if I can get you to the city and you can see your competition and you realize, hey, I'm pretty good. I can do what they're doing. I can
Yeah.
learn what they've learned. Well, you walk away empowered by the future, and that gives you strength and courage for today. And
Mhm.
so I try to make sure that we get as many people in the city who are like I was, unable to afford the trip to DC. I never made it to DC until I got elected to Congress.
Wow.
We didn't have the money. I didn't have a school trip or a high school trip or a family vacation. We didn't make it to the beach, and I lived less than 10 miles from the beach until I was about 18 years old. So literally, you can have these blinders start locking you in. I'm telling you to stick your head above, and I'm going to help you do that with my internship programs.
Yeah, I love that. And, we've had interns in your office, and they do come out with this totally new perspective, a holistic perspective, on the world. It truly does change who you are. I mean, a summer in Washington, I was like you, very narrow view, not, even just in what I ate barbecue and Mexican food, and that was it.
I'm
And
with
so
you on
it,
that. Yes.
you meet other people from other cultures, you learn to fall in love with other types of music, to hear people's stories, and to
Yes.
really realize how legislation affects them and the
Yes.
role you can play in that. And I think that's what's important is now with all this learning, how can we go on to help others? So I applaud you for always doing that.
Thank you very much. It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yeah. So I want to shift gears a little bit to something you said at the beginning, the future of work. And right now, Gen Zers, young millennials, this is really an opportunity for them. I mean, we grew up with the internet, with technology. I know at College to Congress, we seamlessly began working from home with really no hiccups. And so
Right.
you gave some insight that this should be a time where they shouldn't be fearful, they should be acting on opportunity. I'm curious to kind of dive into that more and see what you think about that.
Well, I say lean into technology, lean into where the future is going. The gig economy is not coming, it is here. You think about the advent of technology as it relates to healthcare. Here's a classic example. I believe that telemedicine is the new standard operating procedure. Instead of having to travel to a doctor, you can now have the best doctors in the most remote parts of America, so simply by using telemedicine. That means every every online service will need more employees at some point. There are going to be people who will start their own online services. I didn't know what Zoom was before this thing started. A lot of people didn't know what Zoom was. They may have heard of it, but they didn't use it. Now it's standard operating procedure, and there's a dozen other ones. The companies are gobbling these companies up. Larger companies, Verizon and others, are gobbling up some of these online media sources. Why not start one? Why not get a couple of your friends together and just tinker with it? Why not make something that exists 10% better? That's what Wendy's did to McDonald's. Instead of having the frozen burgers flown in, they had fresh meat. The whole conversation was, where's the beef? Where's the beef? That's what made Wendy's successful. It wasn't a brand new order of French fries. It was they did something that was 10% different. So what I'm suggesting is, in this gig economy, we know that technology makes things new every 12 to 18 months, sometimes every 6 to 8 months. Why not be on the cutting edge? I have a nephew. I have no kids, so for me, my nephew is the heir to the Scott throne. It's a little bitty throne, but he gets it all. And so here he is. He went to Georgia Tech and then Duke, Emory for medical school. Now he's a resident. He's buying his second house because he understands the equity position in America. That means you have to have a profit. Profit comes from 3 different areas. So he's learning all of that. I've taught him as much as I possibly can. And now he's doing what I wish I would have done at his age. So there are so many opportunities. Pick your lane, get really good at it, and then see if you can cross-pollinate with some of your friends. This will lead to extraordinary success. But more importantly, on Thanksgiving, what my nephew does is he takes some of the profit from his online securities account and some of the homes that he's buying, and he gives it away to single moms, like the one that raised him, single moms. He goes to a grocery store and he pays for the checkout for all the groceries for Thanksgiving for as many people as he has money to pay for. So don't just think about what you want. Think about how what you want will serve a bigger cause, a greater cause, especially if you've been down on your luck ever. Why not pay it forward and pay it back?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And, sometimes in Washington, we can be so far removed from the impact. We write
Yes.
these bills and we don't really get to see the change they make for sometimes 5, 10 years to come. And I know when I was a staffer, I really struggled with that because I truly love serving. I mean, I'm like you, I get giddy when I even just talk about it, much less when I'm doing it.
Yes,
And so I
ma'am.
think if you can incorporate some sort of, whether it's volunteering or even just picking up someone's groceries, or it's
Right.
COVID, maybe mowing someone's lawn or shopping for them, the more you can do that, the happier you will be in life, the more fulfilled, and you'll be able to really see your passions and your vision of where you're going to go. So I love your cousin's a great example. I'm sure he learned that one from you. So
Yeah,
that's really impressive of him.
he's
uh
a good
speak
kid.
yeah, speaking of, just your background, your family. As I was digging into today, I wanted to learn something new about you, and I saw that you were a part of Boys State. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes, we
Yes,
are Boy State.
I love it. So we actually just partnered with Boys and Girls State.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, I'm learning all about the organization, wishing, just another one of those things, wish I had it, wish I knew about it. I'm curious if you could share a little bit about your experience with Boys State. I don't know if you ever ran for one of the offices
Oh,
or,
absolutely. Yeah, I tell you
yeah.
what, I loved Boy State. I walked into Boy State as lost as a goose in a rainstorm. You had like about 1,000 kids from across South Carolina, all rising seniors, participating in this leadership program. And for a kid who flunked out of high school as a freshman, who ended up being selected for Boy State by your teachers and your counselors, it was an amazing journey. But Boy State really taught me a lot about leadership and, frankly, relationships. The one thing that we all should acknowledge is the power of relationships, maybe more important than any other resource you have, from my perspective. More important than money, more important than fame, more important than of opportunity. It breeds out of relationships. And so at Boys State, I made lifelong relationships in less than 7 days. It was that impactful. I did run for office at Boys State. I was successful. I was the mayor of my city, and I was successful. I ran for the counties. I was a senator in my county, and then I went for the ultimate dream. I decided I would run for governor, and I gave a great speech based on a poem that the man who thinks he can. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you try not and think you can't, is almost a cinch you won't. It was a great, great poem. I gave a terrible speech. It could not have gone worse. As a matter of fact, you're giving a bad speech when you're bored in the middle of it. And that's where I found myself. I was so nervous, it was ridiculous. So I got beat like a drum at Boise State for governor. But I won 2 other offices. I left with injured ego, but a lot of friends. And it, frankly, I think led me to where I am today.
No kidding. I was going to say, I bet, getting many times when people run for office, they lose their first race, just like how you were sharing you did. But it probably felt better losing it at Boys State and really going through those emotions than doing it now.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to have to definitely send you this link. We partnered with Amazon Original Films and A24 to give all of our viewers, students, and audience an early screening of a Sundance award-winning film called Boys State. So hopefully, you can make some time to watch it. I think you'll reminisce and remember all those memories you had when you were there.
I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. So Senator Scott, our time's coming to an end. I know
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
very busy. I don't even know what the voting schedule looks like the rest of the day. But I just wanted to make sure to take some time to highlight one of your major policies, that is opportunity zones. I grew up in a mobile home, a low income community. There were no resources flooding into the schools, to our homes, to anything. And that's why I'm so inspired by your way of fixing this. So you've championed the bill. I know you did a nationwide tour. You're still committed to this
Yes.
today. For
Yes.
people who maybe aren't familiar with it or how it can help them in their communities, could you share that with us?
Sure. Opportunity zones really is a design that I think the why is always more important than the what, and the why for opportunity zones or for kids like Audrey and kids like I was growing up in poverty, growing up in a place where opportunity seems to be elusive, hope seems to be seeping out or being diffused. Opportunity zone simply says that in those areas, there's a lot of potential, a lot of untapped resources. So why don't we bring the resources, the jobs closer to them? And through the Opportunity Zone designation, about 8,000 plus areas around the country have been designated as Opportunity Zones. That gives a special tax treatment, tax deferral, and tax deferral and stepped up in your basis to attract more revenues into those areas to create jobs and to improve the quality of life. So far, we have about $75 billion of private sector dollars committed for those impoverished areas. And interestingly enough, the wages are increasing in those areas faster than the rest of the country, and the property values are increasing as well. It's good news because about 60% of the people in opportunity zones own their own property. So we're not running people out to make something better. We're actually rewarding those who are there.
And I love that too, because that's historically how Americans have generated wealth is through their
Yes,
homes and with everything. I mean, you and I know the in and outs about how political homes and communities can become. And I
yes,
just love that you were so thoughtful in how you crafted this and just how you're messaging it, ensuring that this isn't to change, it's to enhance and it's to
right.
make better. And I really love that about this. And I know it's been incredibly popular. And if that's all you do, that was good enough. But I know there's more to come. So
Yeah.
for my last question, I just wanted to address something that it's been near and dear to our heart. It's been weighing on the nation, and that is this issue that we're seeing with the civil unrest, the racial unrest at College to Congress. 59%, so almost 60% of the students that we serve are students of color. So
Mm.
we're very focused on supporting them right now. I know you've been very outspoken on the national stage, pushing for positive change. I'm curious if you have anything you'd like to share with our students.
Well, listen, the world is not always fair. I find it to be either less than fair or more than fair. One of the lessons that I hope that most of the folks that are in your program will walk away with is that for the vast majority of the time, you determine what's going to be more than fair and you determine what's less than fair. To suggest that racism is not an issue somewhere in the country would be false. To suggest that racism is the issue of the country would be equally false. So what I've tried to do is to take a thoughtful approach about how we redesign our systems to be more responsive to communities of color through police reform, creating better relationships, not demonizing law enforcement. The way I look at it is I don't want to be stereotyped as a black man, so why in the world would I stereotype all police officers of being of one mind? That is not the case. I think the overwhelming majority are good, but for those who are not, I think we have to have checks and balances in place. My legislation gets us there. The good news is my friends on the other side of the aisle, especially in the House, are very interested in coming back to the table, debating and improving the legislation from their perspective. I want to do the same on my side, and hopefully we get to a solution that speaks to communities, frankly, communities of color specifically, that we see and hear your pain, and we are willing to address it. That's good news, and I'm optimistic that we're going to get it done, hopefully sooner than later. But either way, we are paying attention, and I hope that leads to a fruitful outcome.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's such gracious leadership too, and thank you for really owning this issue, for finding solutions.
Yes, ma'am.
I know it makes me sleep better at night. I know it's been incredibly helpful for our students. So we'll keep following you along and cheering and plotting those efforts, cheering you on. Well,
Yes.
Senator Scott, this has just been wonderful as it always is. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your leadership with College to Congress. It's so appreciated.
Frankly, thank you, Audrey. You are amazing. You are a light sometimes in the middle of dark days. So please be encouraged. What you're doing is producing fruit, producing results. The country is better because of programs like the one you started. And I'm so thankful for your heart, Audrey. And I hope that the folks that get to know you are as excited about their future, frankly, as I am about my future, being one of your biggest admirers. I know that as you go higher, I get to hold on to your coattails and go up with you. So God bless you.
God bless you too. And for all of our viewers, we're just going to take a 5-minute break and we're going to come back with a discussion with the Sundance Award winning film, Boy State. We're talking to the filmmakers and to the students. Senator Scott, thank you. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Yes, ma'am. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.